All right, we're recording, so we can begin.
Okay.
Great.
Hey, Meta.
Hi.
Okay, we have a great deal to get through today, but I wanted to kick off today just by saying, expressing some gratitude. It is astonishing where we are right now. And it's also astonishing that, being able to work with so many amazing people. I feel really, really grateful for where we are. And we're about to get an update from an amazing person, a remarkable person, Meta. Can you give us the developer update?
Good morning, Greg. Thank you for that intro. It is very humbling. It is very amazing. I've worked on a lot of software projects, and I can say that given the timelines and what we've built, it's been pretty unbelievable that we've been able to accomplish so much in a short amount of time. If we look back, I like to when I'm having a particularly difficult day, I like to look back and see where we were January 31st. And on January 31st, we were using the C++ Rosette VM and the preliminary Roland compiler that Kent had built. And that was our first SDK release. And since that time, we have really, built an interpreter, completed the Roland language, built the entire node infrastructure, the blockchain, the Casper's consensus algorithm, all of it. And it's just really amazing to see the software come together and see the functionality of the platform come together. It's really, in a short 7 months, it's really incredible. So with that, without further ado, let's kind of go into our update. So Node 6 release branch is cut and Node 6.1 has been released. Woohoo! In this release, you can go ahead and take a look at the release plans as part of the release announcement, and you can see all the features that were in there. We really focused a lot on hardening and stability of the platform in Node 6, and we do have some features that will be patched in Node 6 in preparation for testnet. Those are called out in the release plan. You can see the release plans on the wiki. They are also available on developer.rchain.coop. And you can see which features are coming in a future patch around the 30th of August, if not sooner. We are focusing on bugs and stability again as the highest priority for resolution. I'm focusing on triage every Tuesday after node testing. Node testing has been extremely successful. We've been very happy with the results. We've tried to consistently test the latest and greatest software. We came close to being able to test the gRPC challenge protocol. I believe we are scheduling another round of node testing before Tuesday. Is that correct, Kelly?
That is correct. We're following Rule 485, and as soon as it gets into dev, we are going to do a very quick and dirty call for volunteers to help test that. So that I'm anticipating that would be sometime tomorrow or Friday.
That's terrific. And
so
for those of you,
look in the node testing channel on Discord. That's where we'll do the call for volunteers.
That's awesome. And so what that's going to be is the Genesis block signing protocol. So for those of you that want to get a feel for what it would be, how it would be to sign the Genesis block, show up for that, monitor that channel, and you can participate if you have a running node. Let's see. So dashboard. So we are triaging every Tuesday after node testing. Please take a look at the dashboard and make sure that you are not filing a duplicate bug. I thank you in advance for doing that. So that's that much less that I have to triage. Update on the project timeline. So sharding and economics for consensus are not ready. These will be part of Node 7. And as a result of this slip, the team will end up delivering features on the testnet all the way up to November. And we are working on release criteria. We're going to be working with the development team and the co-op to settle on the criteria for release. We want to be, cognizant that we want to have the system be free of critical and high defects. We want it to stabilize for a designated period of time. But this really depends on the use patterns of the platform, right? And so you can have really buggy software give you the impression that it's great if nobody uses it, or if people use it in a very limited and constrained fashion, or if they use it using the same use cases, right? And so the key to having a really fantastic and clean mainnet that's robust and stable and scalable is use cases. And you hear Greg talk about this all the time, that we need to put the system under pressure. And I want to really emphasize that it's a call to action for anyone that wants to be a validator, anyone that wants to write a DApp. We need your Rolang now. We need you running a node. We need you putting the system under stress. We need to see more and more use cases against the platform so we can flesh out any lurking issues. The team has done a great job with continuous integration. They've done a great job with unit tests. But again, it's like, developers looking at their own baby and trying to find flaws at it. We really need the community to kind of open up our mindset, broaden our view of the platform, broaden the use cases by having all of you pound on it as well. So Greg is engaging with HackerOne. He's engaging with other third-party organizations to help pound on the testnet, but this is also a call to action in the community on how you can help us ensure that the software is solid. So that's how you can get involved. So really looking to the community to help support us in hardening the testnet. Kelly, what were the numbers for our node testing? Those numbers aren't right. We need to update them. Did we have 32 peers? I think we had more.
I think we had more. I don't remember exactly. I know we had 65 people there on Tuesday.
Okay.
Woohoo! That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really well attended. A lot of things going on, and lots of learning too. That was fun.
Very good. Very good. Well, I know I had a meeting with a call with all of the reflective companies on Thursday, and I gave them the same speech you gave, Meta. I think they heard the message, because I think at least one company has already stepped up to deploy some contracts. So
fantastic.
No, you're spot on there. But I understand you have some demos for us.
Yeah, so let me go through the detailed update, and then I'll show the Grafana dashboard. So let's go through the detailed update. So the registry is an implementation. We will support UUIDs and public keys only. Expect a pull request for the name registry coming in the next couple of days. We do have a plan on compressing the block data before sending it. That's not correct. It's not a 4 megabyte limit on the protobuf. That is incorrect. I will fix that. That's wrong. The block approval protocol for Genesis is in review. We tested the process yesterday. Like I said, we'll be testing it later with the community. Integration of the block store is in review. This is a large PR that Kent dropped. It does depend on the Genesis block approval PR. So those are two very large changes that will be coming in by the August 30th timeframe. We have the unbonding contract that is sitting there in review. We're not going to integrate that in time for testnet, but we will probably do a fast follow-on with it. We've also got error handling in Casper that's in review. Our goal is to include that for testnet, and that PR is also being looked at right now. We're addressing issues in RSpace relating to thread management and performance. This came out of our initial performance test. We discovered an issue in RSpace relating to how channels grow exponentially and how those are managed. And we also discovered an LMDB single writer limitation. So what we're doing is we're going to move to a hybrid solution where we use the in-memory hot store for all the writes, and then the LMDB checkpoint for the history, where that's going to be really heavy on reads. So we're going to try to take the best of both. We are pushing really hard to get that done before testnet. And the reason being is we're finding that these limitations are affecting our ability to demonstrate a very high threshold of performance for sustained use. We implement an update frame size to support blocks of 100 megabytes in size by default. That's why I said the 4 megabyte protobuf is not correct. So we're up to 100 megabytes by default. The size is also configurable via command flag on node startup. So you can specify the frame size you want when you start the node. We have made some performance harness improvements. I'll be demoing the Grafana dashboard today. And we also have a Grafana dashboard that can be used as testnet. So in essence, what will happen is we will need the validators to expose their gRPC endpoint for their metrics. And then we'll include those IP addresses and port numbers in the Grafana configuration, and boom, we'll be able to see their metrics in Grafana. That will be used for the performance demo. We're improving the memory monitoring metrics, and the node team is focused on the bug fixes. We see a lot of, nits in terms of exceptions during node testing. So those issues that are coming through via node testing, we're getting those triaged on the backlog on the board so the node team can take a look. The Roscala team has tied off their work and they've joined the Rolang and node teams respectively. We have updates to the website with the RNode 6.1 release. And the Rock Rev page was updated on the 21st of August. Go to take a look at that, please, if you're interested. And we have close to 30 community members that are going to help with the testnet launch of RCon 3. So please, if you're planning on doing that at RCon 3, join the Tuesday community testing sessions so you're familiar with the RNode software and how it works. And please register your interest at developer.rchain.coop if you're interested in being a validator. RCon 3, it's not too late to register. Registration as of today is 251 individuals. Please don't miss out. If you can't be there, we will have a live stream of tracks 1 to 5. And we're happy to announce that Adrian Blue Power Trio and EchoTest will perform a concert for attendees on September 5th at 8 p.m. local time. And you can get details about the conference at rchain.coop/conference. I believe there's also a discount if you're registering with Ethereum. Is that correct? Using Ether to pay?
Correct.
So if you have Ether, it's burning a hole in your pocket, feel free to register for RCon 3 and join us in Berlin. All right, I'm going to give you guys a quick demo of the Grafana dashboard here. So what you're looking at right now is the COM events metric dashboard. So I'll kind of share with you what we're seeing here. We have a performance runner application that runs in Gatling. I can share with you the logs. These are the logs of the simulation running right here. So this is all running within Docker. This Gatling is running within Docker. And basically it has a series of scenarios that it runs through. And what you see as a result of that, we're deploying a contract called the dupe contract. And the primary purpose of the dupe contract is to generate a large number of COM events. And we can configure the dupe contract to generate COM events, either 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 1 million, and so on and so forth. And so you'll see here, this RSpace COM events dashboard you're looking at here now is the COM events generated by the initial deploy. So we deploy to a single node. That node will report a specific time of COM event, and that's the original execution of the contract and the COM events that are generated as a result of that original execution. As you're aware, once you run all the transactions, the outcome of that is to generate a block and propose it. So you'll see here the system completed execution, and right after that, it deployed a block, proposed a block. And as a result of proposing a block, you'll see here, these are the replay operations, and replay operations means validation. So here's an example of a single of the nodes validating those COM events, validating that transaction by running that contract. And here are the COM events that are generated as a result of that contract execution. And as you can see here, we've got a handsome peak performance of 600 COM events per second. This is just a demonstration of one node, right? And now, so what I want to call your attention to is, you'll see here there's a flat, like it's an average over 1 minute, right? You don't want your Grafana dashboard or Grafana metrics really spamming the system for intervals at 1 second. You want to take the average of 1 minute. So because it's a flat bar, we can argue that it processed 600 peak or 426 peak and an average over 1 minute, but there was a spike at one instance of 1 second here of 426 COM events. And you'll see here, there was a peak here of 500. Oh, what's the peak? If I can hit that 1 second mark here.
Now, I just wanted to
566.
point out that one of the things you mentioned earlier, because of the way LMDB was being used, 57% of the time was spent in one method. So we're going to optimize that method to only be called once per deployment instead of every time a message is sent or received on a channel. And that should dramatically increase these numbers.
Yep, exactly. And so we're not just looking at COM events. COM events is obviously very important because that is a promise that the development team has to deliver on. But we're also looking at overall container memory usage, CPU usage, and health. Now, bear in mind, as far as I understand it, these containers are running 1 gigabyte of memory and 1 CPU.
Oh, that was about what I was about to say. I was on mute, so this is like not exactly high-powered hardware here.
Yes.
It's almost a right there.
Yeah, pretty much. Almost.
So we're expecting quite a bit more performance when you start looking at really beefy hardware.
Yeah, this is lovely. This is beautiful.
Turning it over for questions. Lawrence asked where I would like to see it stressed or just general DApps. So I think probably one of our largest area of risks is Rolang in terms of edge cases and corner cases that may be hiding in terms of how a contract executes, right? So really getting a variety of Rolang deployed against the blockchain and a variety of contracts that interact, a variety of transactions that interact with the blockchain in interesting ways is really where I'd like to see use cases. So the more dApps, the better.
Yes, indeed. And it should be a lot of fun, right? I mean, this is kind of what this is all about, is being able to start writing contracts in this style where we have explicit concurrency. So
Lawrence has a question about physical storage. So are you asking about the physical storage in the block storage?
No, you wanted it stressed. So is storage one of the places that we should think about stressing it as well, reads and physical writes?
Oh yeah, so that's more respect to performance. So stress testing the performance in terms of the tuple space and how the state grows. I think the core development team is owning that. I'm much more interested. Well, I am interested in really functional testing, right? So what are the use cases? What are the different kinds of dApps interesting dApps that you can deploy and interact with the blockchain and interact with the tuple space? That's what I'm really curious about.
Got it. Thank you.
So Lawrence, with respect to, here's a class of applications that I know the dev team is not working on, with the exception of the 2 demos that we have that we'll also be talking about today. And that has to do with interaction with the outside world, right? So for example, with the audio demo, we'll be storing audio data directly on chain, which means, of course, that we have a proxy layer between something that's serving up the audio to a user and the chain itself. So we've got a proxy for that. We would love to have additional, other kinds of data being stored on chain, which would mean exercising our APIs and
Photo storage.
Kenny's over here saying photo storage. It's like anything where you might think about storing data on chain. That demo will be available as a kind of template for other people to utilize to come up with different approaches to storing data on chain. That would be a very, very good place. So there's essentially 2 kinds of data storage issues, right? One is the storage issue associated with just deploying of contracts, right? But the other is the deploying of other kinds of application relevant data. So we'd love to get that stressed as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome.
One of the things I'd like to kind of call your attention to is you'll see here that these metrics are coming in different colors, right? And so each color, so this is Pier 1 here doing a replay here. And now you'll start you're seeing the Bootstrap is starting its replay operations. So you see the blocks being passed around to the other nodes, and the other nodes performing the validation.
This is just lovely. It's really, really nice to see. Nice to see this kind of visual display. I think it'll be very, very helpful rolling forward. Sweet. Any other questions for Meta?
Yeah, I have a question. And Meta, you don't need to really address this, but I know that people are going to be asking about sharding. Ethereum is a little bit delayed in their solution. If you have anything more to say, maybe that this is a good opportunity, or if anybody has anything to say, that there's an opportunity for us all to address it.
Sure. So one of the things I can say about sharding is I asked Mike Stay to author a document about what the sharding in RChain is going to look like. We have that document. It's been put on the wiki. It's in internal review with the development team. One of the big slips on the project was the delay in nailing down what our sharding solution was going to be. And I think it's also a big question for the community and the dApp developers at large in terms of what does sharding look like? What feature sets can we count on? How is it going to interact with the root shard? Lots of questions around that. And this document, once the development team has kind of fleshed out their questions with it, I will be publishing it or communicating it to the broader community so everybody can get on the same page with it. I recognize that this is something that needs clarification, and everybody has to have the same image and picture in their mind.
Thank you, Meta. That's a perfect answer.
Okay, great.
Bravo. Any other questions?
Terrific. Do you want to turn it over to Kayvon now, or you want him to?
Yeah, I would absolutely like to turn it over to Kayvon. So Kayvon, you have a couple of demos for us. Is that right?
Yes. Hi. Hopefully everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Cool. 1 second. I just lost my screen for share demo.
How's your wrist? Your hand?
Broken from 3 places. It's getting much better. Thank you.
Good.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time finding the Zoom share screen. My thing just disappeared. There we go. Okay. So I have a big monitor. If you can't see it, just let me know. Just go. And I'd like to start with the immersion demo, if that's okay with everyone. So let me walk you through from outside to inside.
Kayvon, you mean the audio demo, right? That's what we're calling it.
Yes, sorry, the audio demo. Thank you.
No worries.
So everything basically is, here's the API, and there's a DNS name for it too. This is our dev environment. And these are basically the same thing. You put the API version, which is version 1. In this case, some user, these are just mock data for now, is interrogating the API for all the assets that they're allowed to interact with, meaning they're allowed to listen. So the API will return the audio, the artist that's associated with that, the album, the artwork, so forth and so on. And all of these would go to the mobile device, and then the mobile device would basically could download each one of these hot links. Now today, because this is a rapid development, distributed development, we needed to give the client team something to work so they can develop their application. For that purpose, the mock data is on S3. That way they can continue developing the client while we're developing the blockchain related work. Yeah, so if there is no question, I move on to to a little bit about the nuts and bolts of this thing.
Go for it.
Cool. All right. Everything is basically available. This is my personal repository, but it's all in there. So there is no really secret or anything in there. It's tied to Circle CI. Again, because this is a distributed development, I needed to work very closely with the
Kayvon?
Yeah. Yes.
Do your diagrams mention any companies by name?
I don't think so, but I will go through it and I make sure I clear it up. But I don't think so. Cool. And then the Circle CI, this is where our build is. And finally, everything is put on Kubernetes. So in this case, we have a version of our node deployed to a Kubernetes cluster. It's running on 2 machines, and so far it's been able to handle the load that we're sending it. We're only testing at this time, so it's not really a lot of testing at this point. But the point being that I think this is the first time that we've deployed Node to a Kubernetes cluster on Google Cloud. And that took a little bit of doing. So that pretty much is what I have for this part of the demo. It will look nicer once you could interact with the mobile device itself. But for now, it's the API and the assets that we can work with.
Yeah, it's never sexy to demo the middleware. But no, you did a great job. But you also have the other demo, right?
Yes. Yes, so I'd like to move on to the Raspberry Pi demo. Now, the Raspberry Pi demo is basically, for the lack of a better term, the best way that I can describe it, it's like swimming upstream. They're very tiny machines. The architecture is different. As part of the development for RChain, the team has made certain assumptions that we run on certain type of hardware. And unfortunately, Raspberry Pi is totally against that. So the challenges that were involved in there, first of all, we need to have a 64-bit architecture. And then secondly, just the libraries for ARM architecture are very different versus Intel or non-ARM architecture. And I had to kind of fudge my way around. Let me go to the repository and show you. If I get into too much detail, please let me know and I can skip. Okay, let's go.
What resolution is your monitor, Kayvon?
I don't know. It's a pretty big monitor.
Yeah, as I say, it's like 8K. Like
I think so.
I'm telling you, this is like, okay. Keep going.
I can make this larger. It just takes a little bit of time with everything that's running on this machine. Okay, is that better?
I mean, I can kind of, yeah, like kind of go deep. Either that hard, but
Right.
let me back up a little bit.
Wow, this thing is really slow. There we go.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so so let's go to the ARM node, and it turned out that I had to build the project locally and then upload the image into my repository. The reason for that is a lot of the build dependencies are very different from a regular build. And I know it's a hack, but with the timeline that we have with this project, I kind of took some shortcuts. I don't have a build machine for this. I built things locally. I modify them on a different branch and I push them up here. So if you were to go here, this is basically what you see if you were to build the project locally on your your laptop or your PC. If you go to the target directory, that's what you will see. So now that we talked about the binaries, let me show you the coding here. So hopefully you could see this.
Just out of curiosity, are you able to actually play the MIDI data? I
can play the MIDI data. However, right now the MIDI data are very, very small. And I will explain why we are in that predicament right now. It just needs a little bit more time. Okay. More development time. So in here, I'm showing you basically the architecture. And on this part here, I'm still logged into the same Raspberry Pi. Node is running, and here I'm going to show you the block as a result of my last interaction. And hopefully that will work. You never know about demos. This is a very tiny hardware, so for the purpose of demo, I've wiped everything down, and I reinstalled, and I put a new image in there. Okay, so you could see some output that's going on, and just bear with me a little bit more, and you should see the block pretty soon. All right, so there is the block. I only send one contract there, and I propose a contract. So that's why the number 2 is there, and there's the output. And now let me show you the contract itself. It's a very simple contract. Basically, the way this works is we get the sensor readings from the device, and I have a sample of that here somewhere. I thought I had a sample of it here. The way it works, basically, the readings are coming in either via my UDP server. They have a UDP dispatcher on their end that's sending the sensor data, or they may send me a dump, and we can take either one of them. Then we parse the data, which is just a CSV file, and we start populating this array. And that's what we put into the blockchain. Then at some point, we start reading that array, and then we generate, from a spigot algorithm, we start generating digits of pi and digits of natural log. And then we convert those into nodes. And I have a little Java app that basically converts those nodes into a MIDI file, stores a MIDI file, and then the MIDI file can be played. So I'm not storing the MIDI file in blockchain, I'm storing the sensor data in blockchain. Is that what you were asking me, Greg?
Yeah, he'll be right back. He just left.
Okay. All right. So now, against my better judgment, I am going to just run this test one more time so you could see the results on the Pi. Oh, it's right here. Okay, so I'm just going to do the integration test. The integration test basically submits the contract. And we could take a look at it real quick. there is the integration test. In this case, we're only going to send the deployment. And part of the reason I run the test one at a time, this is a very, very tiny device. If I were to deploy the contract and propose a contract at the same time, it just isn't enough time for the hardware to finalize the block. So I've learned that I need to do it one at a time and then interrogate the results and make sure I'm getting the results that I want. Well, there we go. I made some changes here. Oh, yeah, I was mucking around with this, so I kind of don't want to troubleshoot in real time. I was in the middle of modifying this code to get the block out, but I think you get the gist of what we have here. So, any questions that I can answer?
No, I mean, I think that's so far what you've shown us is the. I mean, one takeaway I think for a lot of people is that now we've got demonstration of the node both on the Raspberry Pi as well as on this Kubernetes. That's a big, that's a wide range here.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at this thing, we're on the Raspberry Pi. It's a very small machine with very limited memory. And then the Kubernetes is a pretty decent sized cluster.
Yeah, exactly. So just out of curiosity, what's the block on the MIDI data?
Oh, the block size?
No. You said you're not quite generating the MIDI data.
No, I am generating the MIDI data. I said I'm not storing the MIDI data on the blockchain.
Got it. No, of course we don't want to do that. I'm just wondering if you're if you were able to play it, but
yes, I have. I mean, it's not like, you know, music to your ears.
Yeah, sure.
It is music, and I can play it. I can't play it in real time. What I mean by that is the MIDI file gets generated and then it has to be submitted.
Okay, now I understand. Okay, yeah. So you're not streaming it.
No, it's just you know, quite frankly, I really struggled with the hardware, the gRPC, and takes a lot of resources. The LMDB, that was very challenging to get that working on the Pi. So it's like, I mean, you could see the results on top. Nothing is running yet. It's working hard.
Understood. I totally get it. Yeah. So I think one of the things that we recognize that we'll have to look at some of these libraries as a part of deploying to smaller classes of hardware. So if we want to deploy a node to mobile, we're going to have to think again about some of these libraries. I really appreciate the demo, and you know, doing this kind of sort of pioneer work is really it's very, very helpful to the team, so we can see what some of the challenges we're going to face moving forward is. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Quite frankly, most of the challenges, I mean, it was an extremely learning experience for me. And the challenges were the ARM architecture, not so much the size of the device. That just created a lot of the difficulties that we had, particularly with encryption. A lot of the encryption libraries that we use are very, very hardware dependent.
Cool. Yeah, that's really good information, actually. All right, so we should probably move on to updates from business companies. Well, actually, okay, we have so many updates, it's hard to sequence them. I'd like Pythia to go first because we have a major announcement.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Well, the big announcement is our deal with the co-op, and the co-op and the community is signed and updated. A lot of time and effort went into this from a lot of different people. Patience from everyone has been greatly appreciated. And I'd just really like to call out Navneet Suman, Ed Eichholt, Kenny Rowe, and Evan Jensen, who really were integral to all of the conversations, the history, and building and rebuilding relationships. And of course, Greg, so thank you. Thanks to everybody for this. And it's onward from here with a lot of really exciting times ahead for everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. I also want to say that some of the things that that distinguish the RChain community is that we cooperate, and sometimes cooperation is messy. It takes a lot of time, and it's never top down. And so everybody has to have the patience and perseverance to align interests. And I really appreciate the work that everyone has done here. I just want to say that Kenny put the signed contract into the GitHub. So I know Mike Stay and I looked over it at the weekend so that HireFX had an understanding of what's in the contract. Other people, feel free, take a look, see what you think. Again, radical transparency here. Any other updates from you, Lawrence, before we move over to the reflective updates?
All right, so deals, 18 companies came through the pipeline, 9, which is a pretty high ratio, are under consideration. And I think that's really due to the fact that we've built a pretty powerful sourcing channel, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail over what that's looking like. But our deals are coming out of, not just the community and our personal networks, but relationships we've built with PwC, EY. We'll be growing others, and they're doing some of the vetting because these are companies they're working with, and are so they're not just cold referrals of here's someone we met, here's someone who's interesting, but they're actually working with them. And so that the deal flow that we're getting is just super high quality, and appreciate everybody in the community who's reached out. Last week we had 3 in-office pitches in a variety of areas, but one, Rudy Harper from the co-op joined us, and this is a company that's building the next generation of ERPs for crypto mining. And there are going to be some interesting applications and ramifications for node operators, for anybody who's running large pools of data. They gather the analytics. They're going to be able to do some very interesting things with shifting how the pools operate during the day, and this is all managed in a SaaS model. Rudy, I know you're on the call if you want to say anything or have any comments about it. Otherwise, I'll move on.
Thanks for having me. It was enjoyable. I don't know much about mining, but it was pretty cool. And I look forward to seeing a few more for my own education. Great job.
Thank you.
Right.
And if anybody else wants to join, just hit me up on Discord or send an email over to pitches@pythia.com. Interesting. So we got RCon coming up. I did a video interview that I'll post. I haven't put that up where, it was a really shameless plug for what's going to happen at RCon. Lucidity, our latest portfolio company, is presenting along with Life ID. What I think is going to be most interesting, they will talk about the ad tech business and the massive scale. They've built a side chain architecture, and they're going to go into some level of detail. So the interesting notion, comment about sharded namespaces is going to be important, because they're banging their heads on the ceiling already with the volume they're getting. So how it moves into RChain, how that transformation is going to happen, you're going to hear it live from the CTO and VP of engineering. So I think that's going to be super exciting. We've announced office hours with Commotion, which is the University of Washington's tech transfer organization. We'll post when we have those, and you'll have an opportunity to meet different people, but it'll also be a chance to, spread the word amongst not only the student community within the university, but people doing other tech. We are going to be at Blockchain Seattle, as are other people. I will be interviewing one of the local senators, Senator Reuven Carlisle, and again, really to just not only to talk about blockchain technology and what does it mean in Washington State and how we can impact the policy, but the fact that, RChain and one other company are homegrown technologies, and this does not happen in most states. So it's a unique opportunity to get a bigger stage for RChain and for everything that's going on in blockchain. As I've mentioned in previous calls, we're developing materials to teach a Rolang course, and we've got we've got someone to provide course materials. We're going to need to find a teacher. We've set it up with one of the local coding academies, and we're also going to try and do a short track at Blockchain's Seattle so that we can get a broader audience hands-on with Rolang and some of the other architecture. Last thing, really interesting, and maybe a question back to the tech team, is that we're talking to a smart tickets company, and we can take this offline. They've already built an ERC 721 token for tickets to be sold, so the same way that Ticketmaster, StubHub do paper tickets, but on the digital domain and on the blockchain. And they're really, really eager, because they're already running into scalability issues, to see how it'll work in the future on RChain. I don't know if anybody's ready to talk about that, but definitely want to pull somebody from the dev team into a side conversation on that. So, and then last but not least, we are continuing to work on, and they've given me the green light to talk about this, our relationship with Amazon and AWS for the community. So not only are we able to offer credits, but they will become, in their words, a strong partner. And they will be coming to deal days, our Pythia pitch days. And they will also be looking to bring some of the portfolio companies, which we haven't named yet, into the .com and promote them. So that's something we'll look to bring to the larger RChain community as that relationship evolves. So sorry for the longer update, but
awesome update. And the ticket company, ERC 721, I gave it my personal recommendation. It's awesome. It's an awesome investment.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Lawrence. I really appreciate that update. In the interest of time, I'm going to move it over to Reflective. We have updates both on the business side and also on the validator side. Maybe we could first get the validator sales side. I know jonwest has some interesting updates. If we could hear from John and then turn it over to the rest of the Reflective team, that would be great.
Hey friends, jonwest here. I'm gonna share my screen. Can we mute yours? What's that?
You have to. No. They have to.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
There we go. I think we got it.
We good?
Everybody.
Now we. Okay. Well, I can't.
John,
Okay.
We have a little problem with the voice of God.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so a little update on validator sale pricing. So we decided these are the discounts we're going to do per tranche. So the minimum amount to stake is 1,500. So if you're staking between 1,500 to 250K, you get spot. 250 to $1 million is 3%, and then $1 million plus is 6%. So this is part one, and we're going to come back to this in a moment. Here is a competitive analysis of what other proof of stake cryptocurrencies are paying, and credit to Lee Carter for putting this together. So from these numbers, we can see that the median is about 7%, and the average is about 10%. So we arrived at a 12% nominal yield, which equals a 15.26% token sale discount. So instead of having to mint new tokens or do anything involving inflation, by selling tokens in this sale at an additional 15.26% discount, we give the benefit to someone of a 12% nominal yield. So here's a representation of it. So factoring in the 0, 3, and 6% from before, if you're in the 1,500 to 250K, you now get a 15.26% sale discounted to spot, 18.36% for the 250 to $1 million, and then $1 million plus 21.36%. So now let's look at some total return, because the lockup period is 18 months. You would get 18% if you're in the first tranche, 22.33 if you're in the second, and 27% if you're in the third. So that comes out to an annual nominal return of 12%, 15%, and 18% respectively. So now if we look at that compared to our competitors, RChain is paying 12 to 18%, which is highly competitive, and I believe makes RChain a better bet in terms of the yield you'll get from the proof of stake. Also, other things worth noting are, if you can imagine, the real bet on RChain is the transactions per second, as we'll be able to do many more than other platforms. Since in the very beginning, we won't have very many transactions per second like any blockchain that launches. That's why we need to pay this nominal yield to incentivize people. It's over 18 months, so if we start doing a lot of transactions per second, you'll get the nominal yield plus all the transactions per second. And then in future staking periods, the nominal yield we would expect to be much lower as the nominal yield goes down, and we'd expect more transactions per second. So the blended rate should increase over time as the transactions per second really dominate, but in future staking periods, we will expect a lower total nominal yield that you will get in addition to the transactions per second. And now I'll open it up to any questions.
So how much are rocks selling for? You know, how many dollars per rock during this sale?
So we're going to mark things versus spot. The way it's going to work is people are going to ping us for whatever tranche they're in, and then we're going to give them those percent discounts relative to how we're marking spot. And we're going to mark spot as a function of like blended averages between the major exchanges. And I'll be able to help with that, and it's going to be like very fair and transparent.
Kenny, no audio.
So at the moment, we're looking at roughly 40 cents a rock. It'll be somewhere in that order.
Mm-hmm. But you know, as spot relatively moves, with the idea being we want spot to be floating, so that way the percent discount can truly represent a nominal yield. So like if I went out to the market right now and I bought credit in, say, Tesla, I'll get it at whatever the market is plus whatever the yield the piece of paper paid.
Sure.
So if we have rocks that we want to stake, we get no discount on that, I guess.
Right. So that's an open question that we're still actively discussing. I personally would favor giving some kind of bonus to people who want to stake. The way that could work would be the co-op just gives them some extra rocks if they're going to be running a validator node. But that is still like open for discussion, because it's, you know, my personal opinion here, but I believe that people who have been longtime contributors shouldn't get penalized at the cost of new entrants.
But as a reminder, or if you've looked in the agreement, when you if you're going to buy a stake in the sale, there's a mandatory lockup of 18 months.
Exactly.
If you bought rock before, that is you're not required on that, except on what we decide on unbonding periods.
Right. So the idea would be then, Jim, to your point, if this was going to work this way, we would force you to essentially, like in exchange for getting more rocks, it would have to be something where you locked up for 18 months to give it the same fairness of terms to new participants.
Thank you.
Cheers. Any other questions?
Thank you very much, John. That was fantastic. Clear, concise, right to the heart of the matter. So let's move on to the updates on the validator sale. Any other updates on the validator sale, and then updates from Reflective?
Yeah, so I'll take the update on the validator sale. Essentially, we had to, excuse me, we had to integrate a new CRM system so that we could manage the incoming inquiries in a responsible manner, as well as the anticipated increase in volume of those inquiries. So we were able to get that done over the weekend. Shahan and Renal and Kevin and Lee have been really working tirelessly to get that done with a couple of the key folks from Co-op. Everybody now that has inquired should have been touched by an email with instructions on how to proceed. If you have not received an email and you made an inquiry about the validator program, please email staking@rchain.coop, and someone who will be in touch with you right away. There's also the validator channel on Discord. So if you want some information or communication and you don't feel like you're getting it, please let us know. We are doing our best to move you through the process as quickly as possible. So if you would respond to our emails back quickly, we can get you through the process in the matter of a few days. So that's the goal. I think unless anybody's got any questions, that's the update. All right.
Awesome. Fantastic. How are things going in Reflective in terms of business development?
Hi, everybody. Real quick, since we've only got a couple of minutes, and I did, Greg, want to spend some time introducing Ned. So in lieu of giving a full update on what we've got going here, I would like to introduce Ned Robinson. So he is going to be working on the onboarding for not just our portfolio companies, Pythias as well, and anybody that's going to be coming on board to the RChain platform. He just started on Monday. See, he's got his email address up there as well. So I'll hand it over to Ned to introduce yourself to the group.
Hey, thank you. Morning, everybody. So I'm Ned Robinson. I joined on Monday, as Steve said, and I'll be spinning up the solutions group, which is tasked with helping companies who've signed up to deploy to the RChain platform to actually help them do so from a technical perspective. So whether they need help setting up validators or writing their DApps or having us work and write DApps for them. So it's going to be a wide-ranging mission of the group. We're going to also get involved in documentation and everything the community really needs to really promote the RChain ecosystem and make it a place where not only businesses but developers want to play and profit. That's pretty good. So I have a long history in working in consulting and technology, starting off as a C programmer, and then just first 15 years of my career writing, real low-level hardcore applications. I worked from New York originally, so worked on Wall Street. Did actually 5 years. I spun up a music company, so that was pretty exciting. And then the last 4 years or 5 years since I moved to San Francisco, been working with some big consulting companies, and recently left a supply chain consulting company here in the Bay Area as the director of software development. So I actually have a wide-ranging perspective on all the bits and pieces that are needed to create this successful ecosystem that we really want to promote. And I'll be reaching out. If I don't reach out to you directly and you have ideas for how I can best support you, please let me know. I think we're out of time, so I think that'll be it for now. So thank you, and nice to meet you all.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ned. Yeah, I think we're just a minute over. Alan, did you have any?
Yeah, let me make it real quick. Ned came to our meeting today. He's awesome. He's going to provide support for dApp developers, which is what we really need. I'm going to paste a link also to our unofficial worldwide blog, which where is in alpha on Ghost right now, and it's generating a lot of positive and negative reactions. So we'll see where it goes. I'll post the link now. Please make any comments that you like. Thanks.
Cheers, Alan. Jonathan, do you want to give a quick update on the RChain Asia?
Jonathan was having audio problems earlier in the call. I'm not sure he'll be able to.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and the RChain Asia documentation is in both video form and Google Doc form for anybody who wants the information. So those guys, they put everything in Google Docs like Meta does, if anyone's interested in what's going on in Asia.
Fantastic. I appreciate that. Very good. Okay. Well, with that, we've already completed another RChain community hangout, and looking forward to seeing you guys next week. And I think that's our last one before Berlin.
One before.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah.
Next one is the last one before Berlin. So I really hope to see all you guys in Berlin. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, and just a note for everyone in this call, I will likely not be able to live stream next week. I will try. We will be leaving the 29th, so we'll try to race down back to Reno to a Starbucks or something so I can get online. But if I'm not online, there should be maybe Kelly or Greg. We got to coordinate, figure out.
Yeah, I'll back you up.
Okay, so maybe look for Kelly's announcement on the Discord if I'm not available to host this room on because of Burning Man, the trip down to Burning Man. So, yeah. All right, guys.
All right. Take it easy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.